Questions. Let's
We're going to go to questions, and we're going to limit the answers to 5 minutes to each question. Okay? Let's do that.
After he goes into 5 minutes.
3 minutes to each question. All right, you're first.
It's quite surprising. I think it's very important to have a sober and rational debate. But it's very surprising to me that, Christopher, you've managed to do almost an existential somersault, because on the one hand, you point out quite rightly all the intransigences of the CIA and being lied to, and we all know that the first casualty of war is the truth. In fact, in Gulf War I, we were told that babies were thrown out of incubators, and in every war, in fact, we've been told lies to try and get us into a war mode. However, then you go along with the premise that we have to be scared about. We're scaring ourselves to death by this terrible threat of terror. And the problem is that when we go along with this idea that we've got all of these enemies to fear and we're going to be blown up by these mad mullahs, all we end up doing is stoking up anxiety and fear and panic, rather than having exactly what you're suggesting, a cold, rational, sober debate. And on both sides, calling people Nazis and fascists doesn't really clarify the specific nature of the situation at the moment. Much better to talk about the specific context. So my question is, are we not, to Christopher Hitchens primarily, are we not being, is it a very bad idea to be promoting fear and the obsession with terror over an objective discussion about what the real conditions are?
As it happens, the questioner is right that in the past, what I actually think of the Gulf War as having begun in '91 and having not yet ceased. My book about this is called A Long, Short War, The Postponed Liberation of Iraq. But if I accept your grammar, and we talk about the '91 war, it is true that it was falsely said that Kuwaiti babies had been dumped out of their incubators and that Saddam was going to move his troops across the Saudi Arabian border. I have no reason to believe either of those allegations was true, but I knew much worse about Saddam Hussein than the then Bush administration did, and had tried to publish it. And you know what? I don't require government permission to think something. And it doesn't change my mind if I see a Republican making a case in which I believe and making it badly. I can actually manage to live with that. And I can go and read the books, and I can go on the internet, and I can go and interview people, just as you all can, and come to your own conclusions, and not whine forever about, we were lied to, when you didn't repress. Yes, I think that's a cause for alarm. But I spoke much less loudly about this than my questioner, who was deafening in his refusal of fear and hysteria. Grow up, some of you, for heaven's sake. Now, a couple of things that I feel I don't want anyone to say when this is over, which I hope it soon is, that I didn't answer a question or I refused a challenge. I had two from Dr. Benjamin. One was about the number of invasions conducted and foreign policy atrocities that could be laid to the account of the United States. Well, I don't expect him to have read my books, or you too. You either, I mean. But if you care to look up my little book on Dr. Kissinger, you will find a fairly strong digest and compendium of the war crimes and crimes against humanity that American foreign policy has been responsible for, and a call also for those responsible to be placed on trial, which I think there's still a chance that Dr. Kissinger can. So I don't appear, as it were, in the character of an apologist for the American past. I rather like the change of policy. I prefer overthrowing dictators and starting elections to cancelling elections and installing dictators. Those of you who find this hard to understand will find it hard to understand. It's not my fault. And that I'm not at all an atheist, I'm an anti-theist. I believe religious belief is positively harmful. And that if I was an atheist, I'm not sure I'd be promoting a book that said, welcome to someone who'd left the Nation of Islam and gone back to the church. I mean...
It's not my story, it's his.
I know that, I heard that.
Right.
I listened to you, in fact.
Not my story, it's his.
Joining the church is generally a step down. I think leaving the Nation of Islam to join the church probably is a step up, but I mean, this is not...
But I would just like to, I must say something about that. You see this again when I'm talking about, I'm an atheist, but I have a lot of respect for the black church. The black church is a heroic institution. It produced Dr. Martin Luther King. It produced, if you look at the 19th century, virtually, and you look at the 20th century, the just the leadership. Well, first of all, the black church would justify its existence just for the musicians it has produced. You understand what I'm saying? The great musicians. The black church is a marvelous institution, and I love it, and I support it. I just don't believe in God.
I have to do this. Just picture, ladies and gentlemen, if you would, if the pallid, pink, slumped, faggy, epicene Hitchens had got up and said, the thing about the black church is its wonderful sense of rhythm. I don't think you'd have applauded me, would you?
Next
I
question.
wasn't going to try it either.
Next question.
Hi, my name is Priya, and I was invited here by Mr. Benjamin to make a brief statement on the situation of the Iraqi women. By the way, the reason Playthell should get to talk is because the corporate media in this country has already given a platform to Mr. Hitchens' point of view. You know, you mentioned Tim McVeigh, Playthell. He was a Gulf War vet. It's probably where he learned that killing innocent people was okay. But the situation for the women in Iraq is that they are fighting a theocratic, fascist Islamic state unleashed by the United States.
This is not a demonstration.
We have instituted Islamic Sharia in the Iraqi
It has not been agreed to
constitution.
hear statements. It has not been agreed to hear statements.
So
This
these
is-
women are
we're
stuck
asking
between
questions.
a brutal
I will go.
occupation
Got
and a fundamentalist theocratic regime.
Cut it off.
So that is not liberation.
All right, we're going to ask.
That's
this-
a delusion that you're trapped in.
All right, we're
Human
going to ask
rights
a question.
for America
Come
mean
on,
the
this is
rights
gonna,
of
this is going to
caliber.
Out of order.
This is selfish to do that because this is going to
I'm
come
not
to
here
an
to
end.
kiss your ass.
Scott,
I'm here
turn
to
that
convey
mic
a
off.
serious human rights crisis for
Can you
women
turn
in,
that mic
in
off?
Iraq, directly resulting from the policies that you support.
Out of order. Out of
right.
order.
It's not, the war is out of order.
Sit down. Out of order.
I just would like to ask a question.
Listen,
though.
I oppose the war, but we can't have a war in this
But-
room right
but-
now.
but-
We
but-
have to have a civil
Hey,
debate,
Randy
all right?
Credico, listen,
Let's have a debate
all right,
here.
But listen, well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen,
Christ's
the
sakes,
British
man. We're
House of
gonna go-
Commons? It looks like the British House of Commons to me. That's what it looks. So we're having a
No, it's a
passionate
bit different
debate.
from that,
Nobody
actually.
has pulled
I
a
think
knife
you'll
on
find.
anybody yet. I haven't made any motion to strike Mr. Hitchens. We just talking. What is everybody so uptight about? Let me just say this.
We're
Somebody
waiting for
They're gonna
questions,
hang me.
Dr.
Somebody
Benjamin.
ought to say. Somebody ought to
We're
say.
waiting for our questioners.
That what they. I have a copy of the Iraqi
waiting for our
Constitution here.
questioners
You understand?
to have
and
their
women
turn.
and women are going to get shafted in this situation, and somebody ought to say it. Somebody ought to say it.
Wait till we ask them.
Listen, in this room right now, he is the underdog, all
We're
right?
gonna get
So we have
shafted.
to
Yeah.
defer and not
No, I'm not.
have this kind. I mean, in terms of people and their position, maybe 7 to
We don't
30.
need
So let's
to
go to
route
questions
questions.
right
No,
now.
I'm not.
Let's go to questions.